Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for the monthly employment data release media call. My name is Allison Hopkins, and I serve as the Deputy Director of External Affairs here at the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Joining me here is Jimmy Hickman, Bureau Chief of the Workforce Statistics and Economic Research. At the conclusion of this presentation, we will be taking questions from the credentialed media. To ask a question, please submit it through the Teams chat feature. We will not be able to accept questions through a private chat, so please use this option. We'll address as many of these questions as possible, but if your question is not covered, please email media@deo.myflorida.com and our team will work to get you an answer. Today's presentation is focused on employment data for October 2022. So if you have any questions regarding any other DEO topics, please also use the media@deo.myflorida.com to connect with our communications and external affairs team. I will now turn it over to Jimmy.
Morning. At 10 a.m. this morning, the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity released October 2022 labor statistics for the state of Florida, as well as its sub-state areas, including all metropolitan areas, counties, cities. These data were produced by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics through a federal state cooperative agreement with DEO. Data were collected through a combination of employer and household surveys, administrative records, and statistical modeling techniques. As a reminder, the current population survey is used to estimate Florida's unemployment rate, total labor force, and labor force participation rate under the local area unemployment statistics program. Since these statistics are based on a survey of households, they capture information about visuals, not jobs, and they are calculated by place of residence, not place of work. Florida's seasonally adjusted unemployment rate in October 2022 was 2.7%, an increase of 0.2 percentage point from the revised September 22 rate of 2.5% and a decrease of 1 percentage point from October of last year. This unemployment rate is equal to the February 2020 rate of 2.7%. The national unemployment rate and the state rate both increased by 0.2 percentage point in October 2022. The national unemployment rate was 3.7%, and Florida's statewide unemployment rate has now remained below the national rate for 23 consecutive months since December of 2020. In October of 2022, Hendry County had the highest unemployment rate at 4.5%, followed by Highlands County at 4.3% and Charlotte County at 4.0%. Monroe and Miami-Dade counties had the state's lowest unemployment rate at 1.7%, followed by St. Johns County at 2.1%. This unemployment rate for October 2022 represented 285,000 jobless individuals out of a labor force in Florida of 10,750,000. The number of both unemployed individuals and employed individuals increased in October by 19,000 and 18,000 respectively. In total, Florida's labor force, which is a combination of all currently employed workers, as well as unemployed job seekers who are actively seeking work, increased by 36,000, up 0.3% from the month prior. This increase in the labor force makes this the 10th consecutive month of labor force growth in Florida, dating back to January 2022. And as of October, there are now 456,000 more Floridians in the labor force than the pre-pandemic level from February of 2020. The national labor force declined in October of 2022, and over the past year, Florida's labor force has grown by 3.2% compared to 1.9% nationally. On this slide, we present a breakdown of the reasons for unemployment statewide. These measures are from the current population survey and are presented as 12-month moving averages. The category of job leavers in gray, or categories of job leavers in gray, re-entrants in blue, new entrants in green, are all considered voluntarily unemployed, and growth in one or all of these categories can be considered a sign of an active and healthy labor market. These three groups combined continue to make up more and more of Florida's unemployed population, driven by a combination of re-entrants to the labor force and voluntary job leavers. Job creation data in Florida is derived from the Current Employment Statistics, or CES survey, conducted by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CES survey collects data from over 40,000 Florida businesses and establishments each month to measure jobs by industry across the state. Since these statistics are based on a survey of employers, they measure counts of jobs, not individuals, and they capture characteristics of employers such as industry and place of work. Total non-agricultural employment rose to 9,452,500 jobs in October of 2022, up 36,400 jobs or 0.4% from September 2022. This figure is up 457,400 jobs from a year ago, an over-the-year increase of 5%. Florida's private sector non-agricultural employment was 8,440,600 jobs in October 2022, up 35,000 jobs or 0.4% from September of 22. Total private employment was up 447,800 jobs from October 2021. This is an over-the-year increase of 5.6%. 7 of the 10 major industry sectors in Florida gained jobs over the month, while all 10 major industries gained jobs from 1 year ago. Leisure and hospitality gained 14,100 jobs over the month, or an increase of 1.1%, followed by education and health services at 8,200 jobs, or 0.6%, and trade, transportation, and utilities also at 8,200 jobs, or 0.4%. Construction lost the most jobs over the month at 2,900 jobs, or 0.5%. In this graphic, we can see industry recovery in Florida compared to nationwide, with Florida in blue and the United States in green. Industries above zero have more jobs now than in February of 2020. Nationally, total employment has recovered to pre-pandemic levels, and we can see that Florida has outperformed the nation in all major industry sectors except for total government. Leisure and hospitality has now surpassed its pre-pandemic job levels, meaning that now all 9 major private sector industries in Florida have recovered to pre-pandemic levels. The leisure and hospitality and other services sector in particular have surpassed February 2020 levels in Florida, while nationally those sectors have struggled to recover. Financial activities and manufacturing have continued to add jobs above and beyond previous peak levels, while these sectors have seen little change from February 2020 nationally. Here's the October 2022 seasonally adjusted local area data. This shows that 17 of the 24 metro areas in Florida had over the month job gains. The Jacksonville metro area grew at the fastest rate at 0.8%, followed by the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater metro area at 0.6%, and St. Sebastian, Vero Beach, and Panama City at 0.5% each. The metro areas that had the most jobs in October were the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater MSA, adding 8,200 jobs, the Jacksonville MSA adding 6,500 jobs, and the Orlando, Kissimmee, Sanford MSA adding 5,000 jobs. The metro areas that lost the most jobs were the Naples, Immokalee, Marco Island area at 1,300 jobs, the Cape Coral, Fort Myers area at 500 jobs, and the Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton, and Pensacola, Ferry Pass, Brent area at 300 jobs each. This is the first month that the data will reflect the impacts of Hurricane Ian, so we wanted to focus on what the data can say about Southwest Florida at this time. In October, we saw over-the-month increases in unemployment in all 4 of the counties shown here, with the largest increase in Lee County. Lee County's unemployment rate ticked up by 1.3 percentage points, followed by Charlotte County at 1 percentage point over the month. We estimate that Lee County had 4,951 more unemployed individuals than in the month prior, while Collier County had 591 more unemployed. All 4 of these counties typically see seasonal decreases in unemployment in October, indicating that the increases shown here were more than likely driven by the impacts of Hurricane Ian. From the employer survey in the graph on the right, we saw an over-the-month decrease in 3 out of 4 MSAs in total jobs. The largest employment decline was in Collier County at negative 1,300 jobs. As a reminder, all of the October 2022 data presented here are preliminary estimates, and DEO, in partnership with BLS, will continue to collect more information to better inform these statistics in the coming months. And finally, here are the most recent job openings and labor turnover survey data for Florida. Please note that this slide reflects information as of September 2022, which is the latest data available. BLS estimates that the number of job openings shown here in blue in Florida fell to 606,000 in September of 2022, an over the month decrease of 15,000. Openings are now down 65,000 or negative 9.7% from 1 year ago. There was 267,000 quits shown here in red statewide in September of 2022, an over the month decrease of 28,000 and down 15,000 or negative 5.3% from 1 year ago. And there are 424,000 hires shown here in green statewide in September 2022, an over the month increase of 17,000. Hires are down 15,000 or 3.4% from 1 year ago. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning for DEO's rate release for October 2022. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to field any questions from credentialed media.
All right, we have a question from Tom Urban. How much of an impact did Hurricane Ian have on the statewide job numbers, and how long with the job effects from the storm last?
Those are both really good questions. So as far as the statewide data goes, we really see that showing up more at the local level with the handful of slides that we showed at the end in Lee, Collier, Sarasota, and the counties down in Southwest Florida. That's where we see some of the most dramatic effects. We saw some I'll call it mild unemployment rate increases in those counties of about 1% or a little bit over 1%. There's a chance that those impacts did contribute to the unemployment increase statewide, but as a total percentage of the state labor force, those numbers are relatively small compared to the entire state. And as for the question about how long we anticipate this to last, that's really, that's something that we'll have to just keep track of going forward. In prior hurricanes, we've seen a range of different types of outcomes. After hurricanes like Hurricane Irma, we see a very rapid recovery. Also with Hurricane Charlie that hit the same area back in 2004, we see a recovery where the job numbers return to pre-hurricane levels within a couple of months. We also have examples like Hurricane Michael that hit the Panama City MSA and the areas surrounding that, where that recovery took a lot longer. I think even kind of into 2022, we were still seeing some sectors that were below their pre-Hurricane Michael employment levels. So it really depends on the specific storm and the specifics of the areas that were most affected. And it's really hard to predict kind of in advance how long we will see those impacts. So that's something that we'll continue to track and report on going forward.
All right, we have a question from Forrest Saunders. Do these latest numbers give us any indication as to how ready the state is for a possible recession?
I think, if anything, these numbers continue to follow the trends that we've seen in Florida over the past couple of years. And what that means is that Florida has really, really strong labor force growth that's been very consistent since the beginning of 2021, really. We see continued very strong job numbers. This 36,000 and change job growth number in October is very, very strong compared to pre-pandemic job growth levels. That would be a very, very high number. And then with some of the breakouts that we showed earlier with the reasons that people are reporting that they're unemployed, more and more of those, we've seen, we've highlighted that at several points over the past couple of years, and more of our employed population continues to be those kind of voluntarily unemployed workers, either re-entering the labor force or leaving their jobs voluntarily to look for something else, which indicate signs of a really healthy and really active labor market. So I think Florida is in as good a position as we could possibly be.
And then we have a question from David Berman. What trends are you seeing in seasonal retail hiring for the Christmas season, including compared with past years? And is inflation affecting the retail sector?
That's a very good question. So in Florida, we typically see some very, very small starts to seasonal hiring in October. The real increases to seasonal hiring happen in November and December. So what happens over the next couple of months will give us a better picture of that. You can't say down in Southwest Florida, those areas do tend to see, October is the start of some of their seasonal tourist season. And with the unemployment rate increases we saw there, that's definitely the opposite direction that we expect those areas to go at this time. So we are seeing some impacts down there, and we'll continue to look for those, as that seasonal period kind of ramps up in those areas. But next month, I think we'll have a better idea of some of the seasonal hiring patterns.
And a question from Gabriella Paul. Is it known if the labor force growth is a result of new residents moving to the state?
That is entirely possible, and that's probably one of our better explanations for a lot of the labor force increase that we've seen. That's not something that is directly captured in the data. We don't necessarily track of all those labor force, of everyone in the labor force where you do live in the state, this year or last year or something to that effect. But we can kind of interpret that we are seeing labor force increases at the same time we're seeing, very rapid kind of first in the nation net migration to the state of Florida. So a lot of that migration is going to impact the labor force in one way or another. That's something that we'll just have to continue to look at and follow up with if you have any other questions related to that.
Thank you, Jimmy. And again, thank you all so much for joining us today for the October 2022 rate release. If you have any additional questions, please email media@deo.myflorida.com. We look forward to having you for our next rate release for the November 2022 statistics on December 16th, 2022. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.